In this video, I will explain how to graph inequalities on a number line. So I have 6 examples for us to work through here. Let's check out this first example. We have the inequality x is less than 4. So to graph that on a number line, here's what we need to keep in mind. If we have a less than or a greater than sign, we're going to use an open circle when we're graphing the inequality on the number line. But if we have a less than or equal to symbol or a greater than or equal to symbol, we're going to use a filled in circle on the number line. So for this inequality, we have x is less than 4. So we know that we're going to be using an open circle. So if we want to graph that, let's go ahead and mark 0 on this number line. And then let's say 4 is somewhere out here. At the value 4, we're going to use an open circle. And then because we're saying x must be less than 4, we're going to fill in all values to the left of 4 on the number line, because these are all of the values that are less than 4. Now, what this arrow actually means is any of the numbers that lie along the arrow will make this inequality true. So for example, if we picked a value of 0, we're saying plug in a 0 for x. So is 0 less than 4? Is this a true inequality? Yes, 0 is less than 4. Or if we picked a number, let's say like all the way out here at -6, is -6 less than 4? Yeah, it is. So any value to the left of 4 on this number line is going to make this inequality true. Now that's in contrast to, let's say we picked a number like out here. Let's say this was a 6. Is 6 less than 4? No, it's not. So 6 does not make that inequality true. So any value out here to the right of 4 does not make the inequality true. So that's how to interpret this number line once we've drawn that. All right, let's check out this next example. It says x is less than or equal to -3. So let's go ahead and mark 0 on our number line, and let's say -3 is out here somewhere. At the value -3, are we going to draw an open circle or a filled in circle? Well, we have less than or equal to. So when we have a less than or equal to symbol, we need to use a filled in circle. So we're going to draw a filled in circle at 3, and we're saying all x values less than or equal to -3. So again, we have a less than, so we're going to draw an arrow to the left. So that's how we can represent this inequality on a number line. All right, let's check out the next example. We have x is greater than 0. So let's go ahead and mark 0 on our number line. Are we going to draw an open circle or a filled in circle at 0? Well, we have a greater than symbol. So because we have a greater than symbol, we're going to use an open circle. So we'll draw an open circle at 0. And we're saying x must be greater than 0. So when you have greater than, you're going to draw your arrow to the right of that value. And what that means is that any value to the right of 0 on this number line should make this inequality true. So for example, if you picked a value, let's say out here of 5, if we plugged in a 5 for x, 5 is greater than 0. Is that true? Yes, it is. 5 is greater than 0. So any number out here to the right of 0 is going to make that inequality true. All right, let's try the next example. We have x is greater than or equal to 2. So let's mark 0 on our number line, and let's say 2 is somewhere out here. Since we have a greater than or equal to symbol, we're going to draw a filled in circle. And because we're saying x is greater than or equal to 2, that means we're going to draw our arrow to the right. So all of these values greater than 2 will make this inequality true. All right, let's try this next one. It says x is less than -1 or x is greater than 2. So let's go ahead and mark 0 again, and then let's mark -1, let's say that's out here somewhere, and then a +2, that's out here somewhere. We're saying x is less than -1. So because we have a less than symbol, we'll draw an open circle at -1, and we're saying x is less than -1. So we're going to draw an arrow to the left, all of these values that are less than -1. And then we also have x is greater than 2. So because we have a greater than symbol, we're going to draw an open circle at 2. And we're saying x could be all values greater than 2. So when we have a greater than symbol, we draw an arrow to the right. So all of these values greater than 2. All right, let's check out this last example. We have 4 is less than or equal to x, which is less than 6. So let's mark 0 on our number line. Let's say 4 is out here somewhere, and 6 is out here. So if we break this down into 2 different parts, let's just look at this inequality. This says x must be less than 6. So at the value 6, we'll draw an open circle, since x is less than that. And then we can start to draw an arrow towards the left, since x is less than those values. But we also know that if we look at our other inequality, x is greater than or equal to 4. So at the value of 4, we need a closed circle, since we're saying greater than or equal to this value. And all x values greater than or equal to, we would draw an arrow to the right in this direction. But we must stop at 6 right here, because remember x is also less than 6. So only the values in this little range on the number line would make this inequality true. So those were just 6 different examples of how to graph inequalities on a number line.